And thank you very much for the invitation to speak at this conference. I think the Norwegian and the Danish petroleum sectors have very much in common. And I think it's important that we share learnings and share experiences. I will, in this presentation, give an overview of the current situation on the Norwegian continental shelf and how Norway has organized its petroleum sector to maximize value creation and maximize the use of technology development. So, the Norwegian shelf has become a mature oil and gas province. The first production started back in 1971 at the Ekofisk field in the southern part of the North Sea. And we have gradually moved north, first to the Norwegian Sea and then to the Barents Sea. And now we have more than 40 years of oil and gas production experience. As can be seen from this graph, oil production peaked around year 2000, where we were actually above 3 million barrels per day. Since then, we've seen a steady decline in oil production. That's the green-colored graph there. And today, we're under 2 million barrels of oil per day. Gas production has shown a steady increase throughout the period and made up for some of the loss in oil production. Today, total production is around 4 million BOE per day. Half of it's oil, half of it's gas. Going forward, we estimate that the oil production will stabilize, mainly due to new developments coming on stream. So if we look at the resource situation today, and this is the end of 2013, 44% of the estimated resource to be produced have been produced, which means that we're still not halfway volume-wise, and I think we're certainly not halfway time-wise. So we probably have more than 40 years of oil and gas production ahead of us. Another 22% of the resources is in the fields that are producing or have an approved development plan. Then 6% is increased recovery, advanced methods, new technologies from the existing fields. 7% is from discoveries that we've made but have not yet put in production. And finally, we estimate that 21% of the resources had not yet been discovered. Those undiscovered resources are distributed between the North Sea, the Norwegian Sea, and the Barents Sea, with the largest uncertainty in the Barents Sea and also the highest upside in the Barents Sea. So, how are we organized to deal with this? And to make sure that we maximize the value creation from the Norwegian continental shelf, also for the society. Well, there's strong cooperation between the ministry, between the directorate, the NPD, and the oil companies. Each of them, however, have their own individual responsibilities. But together, we close the loop by taking both company economics and socioeconomics into account. The NPD that I represent report to the ministry, but at the same time we work very, very closely with the oil companies, with the industry. The NPD has access to all license information and have standing invitation to all license committee meetings. There is no chance we can attend all, but we have an invitation to all and we can choose which ones we want to attend. And by having all that information and being part of the process, we have a good position to challenge the decisions of the company. And we have many examples where the NPD has challenged the decisions made by, or the decisions initially made by the companies, so that actually newer and better solutions have come up, solutions that are better both for the companies and for the society. Research and technology development have led to breakthroughs for our continental shelf. The willingness to apply new technology, and existing for that sake, has led to further exploration, further development, and production. We at the NPD follow very closely the development and application of technology. Without new technology, many fields on the NCS would not have been developed, and existing fields would have seen a lower recovery rate. We are, for example, talking about extensive use of water and gas injection for increased recovery. We're talking about multi-phase flow for tie-in of subsea fields, horizontal and multilateral wells for seismic, for following water movement in producing fields, advanced reservoir modeling, subsea processing, and so on. The list is long. Soon we expect to see the first large-scale subsea gas compressor being installed at the Åsgard field, a major breakthrough that, if it works, can be used at many other fields. Let me say a little more about increased recovery. Over 40 years of production, there's been a very positive development. For example, on the Ekofisk field, when that was put in production, the estimate was that we would get 17% of the oil out, and the field should close production by around 1999. The field is very much alive today, and we now believe that more than 50% of the oil in place can be recovered from Ekofisk. However, if we look at the entire continental shelf, about half of the oil in place will remain in place with today's technology. Half of that, again, is so-called immobile oil, which means that some kind of chemical methods are required to get it out. So to get that other 50% out, there's a tremendous opportunity for additional value creation, both for the companies and for the state. But new technology is definitely needed to go there. Let me talk a little bit about the Troll field, because that's a good example of application of technology. If you look at the picture there, there's a Troll well, which is drilled from somewhere above Empire State, and how the well pads are portrayed on Manhattan. The Troll is a giant gas field in the North Sea, but it has thin oil layers below the gas. So the question was, should we try to get the oil out, or should we go for the gas? And the position of the license holders was, we need to go for the gas. It's quicker, easier, and they didn't think the oil could be developed economically. But the NPD, being responsible for total resource management, we force in a kind way in Norway, but the companies had to make a test. They had to drill a horizontal well and run a test. And that test turned out very positive. And Troll oil is now producing. And it actually turned out to be the 6th largest oil field in Norway. So technology was the driver that made that possible. Horizontal wells to drain the thin oil zone. The technology was developed further, and the wells became multilaterals. Today there are 4 rigs drilling continuously at Troll oil, drilling multilateral wells, mostly with 4 laterals on each wells. Now, the oil layer is thin, and you very quickly get gas breakthrough into the oil. So to avoid that, autonomous valves, downhole valves, were developed. Those are small valves that sit on the production string. And when they see some gas coming, they close. You don't need to control them or anything. It just happened by the difference in density between oil and gas. So by doing that, we can leave the gas in place, produce the oil, and keep the energy that the gas provides to the reservoir. Now, a little bit about how we're organized. We have created a structure. Maybe it's a little complicated, but you see it there on the screen, where the authorities and the private industry work together in a joint effort. Under the Ministry of Petroleum and Energy, there is a think tank that's mentioned here called the OG21, stands for Oil and Gas in the 21st Century. That has representatives from the industry, from academia, and from the authorities. They build a national, or the purpose is to build a national technology strategy by defining the technologies we need going forward. This strategy is used by the Norwegian Research Council to build research programs like Petromax and Demo 2000, where different types of research and demonstration projects are funded jointly by the industry and the authorities. There's a large interest in Norway for these programs, and there are significant more applications than there are awards. To have research funded from one of these programs is therefore an important quality stamp that then results in interest and funding from the industry. So it's not only that you get money from the authority, but you also get the quality stamp. Petromax has a yearly budget of around 250 million kroners, but as indicated, the research attracts at least the same amount of funding from the industry itself. Let me say a little bit more about the OG21. There are, on the current strategy, there are 4 technology target areas, and each target area is led by an industry representative. In total, there's more than 60 people from the industry participating in these 4 groups. They're offering their competence and their expertise on an in-kind basis, and there's no financial compensation. Their individual companies are picking up the tab for that. And I mentioned the 4 target areas that we have today. It's 1, energy efficient and environmentally sustainable technologies. 2, exploration and increased recovery. 3, cost-effective drilling and intervention. And 4, future technologies for production, processing, and transportation. Very much subsea on the last one. And if you're interested in this and want more information, you can find that on the OG21 website. Let me talk a little bit about the supplier industry, because that's quite a nice spin-off from everything else that's happening. Because technology development has also been a significant contributor to creating a world-class Norwegian supplier industry. And again, innovation is key to this. Combined with an already established service industry related to ships, that's what we had before we kind of got into the oil age, and with an attractive exploration and production home market on the Norwegian shelf. The industry has grown from, in 1995, around sales of around 100 billion kroners to around 500 billion kroners today. And it's grown in Norway, but as you can see from the blue-colored graph, it's also had a significant growth in sales overseas. And what we see is that what's proven to work on the Norwegian continental shelf also works on other shelves. However, since Norway has a high cost level and therefore cannot compete on cost, we need to be best on quality, on solutions, and on innovation. Therefore, continuous R&D, innovation, and technology development going forward is very, very important for the sustainability of the supplier industry. So finally, I hope I have been able to portray how technology helps to create value in the Norwegian petroleum sector. Success is very much about mindset and attitude. we need to understand that only by working together will we be able to find the best solutions and create the maximum value for all stakeholders. Thank you very much for your attention.
Mr. Holhjem, thank you very, very much. I think we all know that through the efforts that you have described, Norway is now one of the richest countries in the world. And I wish we had some Zappa music. But also a question before you take a break. I'll also, of course, invite you up here again so people will have an opportunity to ask you questions directly. It seems to me now, listening to Ms. Murphy and you, that there is, although very different approaches, also a commonality, which is very clear to me, that in the process of a more and more complex North Sea environment, the governments of Norway and Britain seem to think that more public involvement and regulatory action is constructive. Now, let's take that as a fact. Please don't say I'm wrong. The question is, will this continue? We've heard from the analysts that the complexity of the North Sea at all levels will grow. Will that also mean that more public regulation will follow?
Well, I think that public regulation is very important. But in Norway, we kind of set the frames. We set the overall rules. If you go back to the graph that I showed on roles and responsibility, it is the companies that have the responsibility for their exploration, for developing the field, for running the field. The government doesn't go in and dictate you should do this or you should not do that. But the government sets the frame conditions. And it's been like that for a long time.
Sorry, you just told us that you forced the drilling of oil at a place where the company said, no, we'll only go for the gas.
We, in Norway, we force in a nice way.
That's what I mean.
I said that. And there is an understanding in Norway that when you get a strong hint from the ministry or the NPD, you should do that. And the industry has followed that up.
Yes, of course.
And therefore, we haven't had the need to do more detailed and prescriptive regulations. So yes, we can ask them to do certain things, but eventually they make their own decisions that they would do that. And after this test on Troll, all the license holders on Troll agreed this would be the right thing to do. So they decided this themselves.
But the question remains, will you ask nice questions more frequently in the future as the complexity of the North Sea grows?
We will continue to ask nice questions. We've done it all through here. Everyone knows that water injection at Ekofisk was also a nice question asked by the authorities, but it was eventually the companies themselves who decided to go ahead with the project. And that's been important.
Mr. Holhjem, I'll look forward to seeing you again.
Okay.